at IPI, we say that peace is not merely the absence of war. It is when people have access to the resources that they need to meet their basic needs. So you can see that whatever work we do, whether it's in relation to HIV and AIDS health, or poverty eradication, or peace building and conflict resolution, everything is about having healthy, dignified lives for all the people we work with. And so we work with women who've been challenged by especially HIV and AIDS. That's what we started with. And we work with children who've lost their parents because of HIV and AIDS. So they are orphans, both total and partial. And we work with youth on leadership and gender equity and reconciliation issues, because patriarchy as a system is a big challenge here, and patriarchy affects both men and women. And so we have a gender equity and reconciliation program to create awareness about how patriarchy and other systems in our communities affect us. And what I'm going to share today with you all is just one component of our work, and that is the Kithoka Amani Children's Home, the home where we house the children who have lost their parents. It is the first program of international peace initiatives, although we've developed others over time. But I'm going to use it as a case study so that you'll understand what you're talking about, that I, as a Kenyan living here, have a better grasp of the situation of how HIV and AIDS has affected families and the community as a whole here. And so our approach is very contextual and it's very regenerative. And that's what we're going to talk about. That is what I'm going to share with you. And that is what we partner with Impact Direct to implement. I live in Kenya, in this place called Meru. It's kind of like in the middle of the country. Can you point where you can see Meru, Marie?
Yes, I just did that.
Oh, great. Sawa, move on. And Kenya is on the eastern coast of Africa. And if you look at the eastern coast of Africa, it actually looks like a face, the profile of a face. And Kenya looks like the eye. So I say Kenya is the eye of Africa, and that's my sanctuary. That's where I love to do my regenerative work. Okay, so you can see all the countries in Africa. So Africa is not a country, and it has very many countries. Okay, so we're on the eastern part. Move on. And I introduced international peace initiatives before, so let's move on. Our motto is inspiring action for peace, and I also founded Tiriji Foundation, and we say we inspire action for regeneration. And regeneration for me is working with people to bring them to a place where they can take charge of their lives and they don't have to depend on you or anybody else after you have worked with them. Okay, move on. I said that one of our programs is the Kithoka Amani Children's Home. And when we talked to the community to give us a free piece of land to start a children's home because of all the children who were, ending up on the streets without parents, they gave us a piece of rocky wasteland. Like we literally were carrying soil to put plants on this rocky piece of wasteland. And this is how the land looks like today. Next photo, please. It is that's the same space I just showed you, and now it's all green and lush and beautiful space for the children to grow up. Next one. And that's the home that I built for the children, because a lot of people build homes for so-called poor children, and they just build shacks for them. And I promised myself that I would never build a house for the kids that I wouldn't live in. So the children's home is beautiful. It's a home. It's not an institution, and it's not an orphanage. It's a home where they find love, support, and everything that they need. Next. The kids come from very challenged backgrounds. This couple, they were married, but it's a long story, a sad story. They don't live together anymore. And I had to take all these kids to the children's home, including this baby here. If we have time at the end of the talk and you ask me questions, I can share a little more. But I just wanted to show that they come from very challenged backgrounds. Next. This is a widow who lost her husband to HIV and AIDS, and she herself is positive. And so I would take the youngest kid, and if she was very sick, I would take all the kids. You see the way their house looks like? When the husband dies, because the relatives are interested in land, they start demolishing their house so that they can live. So most of the women I worked with lived in slums. Next photo. And the children looked like this when they came to the children's home. Next. And that kid you just saw in the last photo is the one with a light green shirt with his hand up in this picture here right now. He's in grade 8 now. And the kids are happy and healthy at our children's home. Next. And we have like the leadership program, the gender equity and reconciliation programs that that encourages the kids to step into their highest potential. So they go to the university and they start running for elective positions. Move on. And so far we have graduated 50 of our children with undergraduate degrees. 5 have completed master's degrees, and we have the first PhD. He will hopefully graduate this year. So the children are making progress, but when you look at the pictures that I showed you before, you'd think that they are helpless and hopeless. So that's the story we'll share now. Move on. And what I have learned is that when we work with people so that they can step into their power, when they know who they are, then they are able to take charge of their lives. Because like I tell the kids, I will never come to class and sit with you or for you. But when we've given them an encouraging, empowering environment, they are able to be regenerative. They're able to take charge of their lives. And that is what sustainable development is for me. Next. So the context within which we work. Go to the last one, in Maria.
This one?
When I went to that one. When I went to school, I was taught that development is done by an expert, and they come with prescriptive. Like the way you go to a doctor and they prescribe medicine for you. So they're the ones who know my problem. So they'll come and study me and prescribe a solution and then leave, probably go raise money, come and do something with us. And then they'll say, I participated. So we are spoken for. We are victims of all these stories about the problems and poverty and conflict that is attached to Africa. And so people feel voiceless, silenced, helpless, and hopeless. But in my work working with women living with HIV and AIDS and vulnerable children, I have learned to do the work in a different way. I have had to unlearn the conditioned mindset that development education taught me when I was at the university. Next one. And so I learned that I have to think within the context that I live in. For example, when I started the children's home, someone would tell me, I want to pay school fees for a child like this one. So we would say, okay, thank you so much. The school fees would be paid, but this child doesn't have a mother. Probably he lives with his younger siblings, or probably with a drunken father, like the case of this child here. And so he goes to school dirty, and the school punishes him, tells him go home and get dressed, clean and stuff like that. And when he goes home, he finds no one. So he starts loitering in the community. The other children start saying, oh, you're dirty, don't come to me, don't play with me. And then even in their faith community, they start saying, you don't go to school, you're always dirty, we don't want you to sit with us. And so slowly, this kid starts getting excluded. And eventually he leaves school. And when he drops out of school, we blame him. But we are the ones to blame because we didn't look at the context within which he lives. Whether he has old enough siblings to help him, the school doesn't understand his family setup, the church is very judgmental, or the whatever faith community he comes from, the playmates desert him, and he really has nothing else to do but to go to the streets to join other gangs. And so I learned that context is very important. When in your country you have groups like refugees, when you have the people that you work with as social workers, there is a context within which you will need to understand if you really want to be holistic in your approach, and to listen to every voice, because every voice counts. I really listen to my children. I don't run the home by myself. In fact, right now, most of the positions are taken by kids who have grown in our children's home. So, because they understand where they've come from, and they're able to be nicer to the children than someone who is just there for the salary. Move on. So the Regen framework works like this. Next. I created this just as a way of understanding how the work has impacted my life too. Because even when you work out in the field, you too must be transforming your life so that you can better transform someone else's life. So I started with understanding who I am as an educated woman working with women with HIV and AIDS and vulnerable children, and how I wanted to be with them. I needed to learn to listen to them and not to go to them as an expert. I needed to understand what stops me, the systems through which I have been socialized, educated, and religionized, and how they have impacted who I say I am and how I look at other people. So at the children's home, we never call the children orphans. We call them by their name. They know they are whole, complete, and enough as they are. And it's not their fault that they don't have parents. It's like blaming a refugee in your country because of the circumstances that have taken place that are out of their control. So we need to understand these systems and how they have taught us to stereotype ourselves and others, and unlearn, so that we can create a new story for us, for ourselves. And once we create our new story, then the engaged actions is about looking for people who think like me, like-minded people, so that we can regenerate the actions that we put, or the interventions that we put in place. Then the outcomes here are monitoring what we are doing, how we are doing it, whether it is giving us good results, and if not, then we rethink what we can do to change the circumstances. And then at the end, we reflect on what we have unlearned, what we have relearned, and what we need to learn again, so that this transformation can take place. And this is a continuous process, because when I started the children's home, I started here with who am I now that I have a building. But when I brought in 10 children, I had to start here again. Like now I have 10 children. Who am I? What stops me? What's my new story? Who will I do this dance with? What are the results that you're looking for? And what is the change that has taken place? After 1 year, I brought in 10 more kids. And the process is a spiral. It's a spiral of learning and learning, relearning, evolving and growing. Learning and learning, relearning, growing and evolving. And that's what I call the regenerative framework. So let's see how it looks like. Next. When you are working in this holistic way, we have to redefine terms. The conditioning that we've grown through education, through religion, through culture, traditions, and all those things, we have to redefine terms. For example, the terms that we saw when Ina Maria was introducing how we talk about places or people. Then we need to de-stereotype myths. Africa is a poor continent. According to who? We are a developing country, continent, because development looks like what? We are developing to look like what? This stereotype myth. Always wear a positive mindset. Look at other people through a mindset of they are able, they can. And then the systems instill fear in us, but we really need to work from a place of love. An authentic heart set. Why do you want to be a social worker? Why do I want to be a social worker? It's service above self. And I remember that we co-create together. I never work alone. This dance, this life dance that we are doing is co-creation with each other so that we can regenerate, because we are interdependent and we are interconnected. Next. So when we use a regenerative systems approach, 7 things have to happen. We must build community. Our results, outcomes must ripple out in all those contextual elements that I showed you earlier on. It is not scaling up. We are not just educating one child after the other. We are impacting that one child and all the contextual elements surrounding that child. We build teams so that people can take charge of their lives. And problems are new possibilities. They are not challenges. Problems are new possibilities calling to be invited in. Regeneration is a process that takes patience, persistence, proaction, and presence. And when you work this way, we need to get our way. We need to get out of the way so that people can now step into what we have taught them to do and to be. And then expect to be surprised. That means that when you don't do things so that you control them and so that you're able to predict the result, you let it go, and then the thing will emerge as it ought to emerge. Next. So this is the building of community to foster community and cultivate networks. We never work alone. Remember, I said we're interconnected and we co-create. Next. Multiple levels of skill, not a single one. It's not linear, it is circular. Next. Make space for self-organizing to build teams so that people can step into their power. Next. Challenges are opportunities. They are not problems. They are new possibilities calling to be invited in. I showed you how this wasteland looks like today. If I had looked at these rocks and walked away, the children's home would not be there today. So always look at challenges as new possibilities calling to be invited in. They are your growing edges. That is where you ground your strength and your wisdom. Next. I said regeneration is a process that takes persistence, patience, proaction, and presence. Next. To facilitate your way out means you let go, stop controlling things. When you've done your part, let go. It will emerge as it ought to. Next. Expect to be surprised is things will be unpredictable. We taught these kids how to grow vegetables, and the vegetable will grow how it will grow according to the inputs the kid has put in it, and soon they'll be harvesting their fruit. Next. There's an African proverb that says, judge each day, not by the harvest, but by the seeds we plant. as a social worker, think about what seeds do you dream to plant every day, both for your life and in the lives of the people that you will be serving. Next. So as a regenerative facilitator, the social worker that you are and that we are, it is about igniting the fire of life learning for people to live lives of dignity and to thrive. Therefore, a regeneration facilitator does not get people to believe in them, not in you and me. Rather, they find ways to get people to believe in themselves. When people believe in themselves, they step into their power, like the women and the children that I've worked with, and they have taught me that there's no one who is helpless and hopeless, except for the systems that we have created to stop them so that we can help them. No one needs help. People just need a space and someone to work with them to see their power. And I promise you they thrive. Next. So a regen approach then is about knowing oneself, my intention, and to hold an authentic spirit as I work with people, to be aware, to be mindful and present, to act with people, not on people, to work with people, to inspire the best self in myself and others, to have a new story mindset and heart set, because we are co-creators who are interconnected, interdependent, and who include every voice. Every voice counts, including yours. Never forget yours, because when I forget my voice, then I'm not present to another person's life. Next. And so we've created this regen culture mantra with my children. And it says, let my dreams be bigger than my fears. Let my actions speak louder than my words. I will work to excel, not to compete. I will live by choice, not by chance. I'll be motivated, not manipulated. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not the jumbled opinions of everyone else. I dare trust myself and others. I dare dream because my dreams are valid. I dare do. I'm not afraid to take action. I dare be authentic and love. So help me. I don't know what you call that thing that created you, but me, I call it God. So I say, so help me, God. Next. Thank you.